Greetings! Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the middle of the order. We have another TOP for you guys here today. We're at the halfway point of our TOPs. It's number 15, I believe, already. So, yeah, moving along here halfway. 15 teams down, 15 to go. Well, actually, 14 down because we got to talk about today's team, the Chicago Cubs. And this is actually my second time recording this because they made a big addition that kind of changed everything about how I was talking about the team in the first place. So let's talk about your Cubs right now because they are definitely, I would say, an interesting team going into the 2024 season. They finished 83 and 79 last year. They finished 6th in runs for, 14th in ERA, and 17th in runs against. They finished 2nd in the NL Central, 7th in the NL overall, and 14th in the MLB. They should have had the 17th pick overall in the draft, but they move up 3 spots in the lottery to number 14 for the draft. And the big change, or one of the biggest changes for the Cubs in 2024, is their manager, David Ross, fan favorite, lifelong Cub. No longer the manager after 4 seasons. They bring in rival manager from the Brewers, long lifer there, Craig Counsell, to be the Cubs manager. That is, for me, one of the biggest managerial changes of the 2024 season, and I think that alone is going to be, beneficial for the Cubs. Craig Counsell, one of the best managers in terms of using the bullpen. So let's talk about who the Cubs are adding, and it starts off with a guy from the Japanese League. I believe Japanese League. I hope I didn't mess that one up. It is the NBP. It is Shota Amanga, pitcher, coming over. He is going to be part of that rotation there. Hector Neris for the bullpen. Michael Busch in a trade, as well as Yancy Almonte in another trade. A bunch of non-roster invitee guys that you know. David Peralta, Garrett Cooper, Jorge Alfaro, Dominic Smith, Carl Edwards Jr., but the big one, and the one that I didn't get to talk about first time around, Cody Bellinger. He signs a nice team-friendly deal, of course, with some player options for himself, but he is re-signed and back with the Cubs per Dansby Swanson's wishes. That's what he said they needed to do, and they went out and got him on that 3-year, $80 million deal. So very good stuff for the Cubs there. They did lose a couple key members, including Marcus Stroman, Yeimer Candelario, Michael Fulmer, Tucker Barnhart, Shane Green, Trey Mancini, and Brad Boxberger are all leaving your Chicago Cubs. So with that being said, how is that starting rotation looking? Justin Steele, what a great year he had last year. He is now the ace of that staff with Stroman gone. Jameson Taillon in the 2 spot. Shota Imanga in number 3. Lifelong Kyle Hendricks. He is number 4. He's been around for a long time there. And then right now it says Jordan Wicks for that 5 spot, although I've heard that 5th spot is up in the air between Jordan Wicks and 2 or 3 other guys there. The bullpen's got some names to note here. Listed as a closer, Adbert Alzole. I hope I pronounced that right. Sorry, Cubs fans. Hector Neris, newly acquired. Yancy Almonte, newly acquired. Julian Merriweather, Drew Smiley, Mark Leither Jr., Javier Assad. So a couple of interesting names here. But the bullpen isn't kind of what the Cubs are going to be made for. It is going to be that lineup, because that lineup is kind of a nice one here. We got Nico Horner leading things off at second base. Dansby Swanson bats second, playing shortstop. Ian Happ, the left fielder, bats third. Cody Bellinger back at first base for fourth. Seiya Suzuki, the right fielder, batting fifth. Christopher Morel at third base, batting sixth. Michael Busch, the DH, batting seventh. Jan Gomes, catcher, batting eighth. And then Mike Tauchman, the center fielder, batting ninth. And overall, just a good balanced team. A nice, 3-4 lefties there, a switch hitter. There's power, there's contact. It's a fun group of guys here. The bench as is followed: Miguel Amaya, backup catcher, Nick Madrigal, and Patrick Wisdom right now. And then Garrett Cooper is listed as the non-roster invitee. So that spot is open in the air, but according to Fangraphs, they think Cooper is in charge of that. Looking at a couple of the injuries, perhaps Patrick Wisdom has some quad tightness, but he should be good to go for opening day, as well as Ian Happ, who has a strained hamstring, but is projected to be on the 26-man roster and good for opening day. But as of now, they're both questionable, dealing with some injuries at the end of February there during some spring training plays. Taking a look at the free agents for next year, it is headlined by Kyle Hendricks. After 5-6 years, it feels like, plus one of the lifelongers. He was on that team when they won the World Series, I believe, in 2016. He is a free agent. Yan Gomes, the very veteran catcher, but still is a nice bat and still a great defender. He's at the end of his deal. And then a couple of interesting guys here. Drew Smyly has a mutual option, Hector Neris has a club option, and then Cody Bellinger has his first of two player options that he can choose for him. So if he wants to opt out after this year, he can. If he stays in this year, he can opt out next year if he'd like. Completely up to Bellinger there. That's what makes that 3-year, $80 million such an enticing deal. So let's talk about these Cubs. At first, I was very hesitant about them, but not anymore. And it kind of starts with Craig Counsell. I think he's a great manager. I think the Brewers are lucky to have him, and I think a lot of the success from the Brewers the past years, not only from the pitching point of view, but also came from Counsell and how he used the bullpen and how he managed his team. And, for the Cubs to go in and kind of snatch him up, I think is a huge play. And I know Brewers fans are going to be unhappy with me saying this, but I think it was the right decision for the Cubs. And, it may hurt that David Ross, fan favorite guy, but he wasn't really that manager type kind of guy. No offense to Rossi there, but, Craig Counsell, over his career, he has 707 wins and 625 losses. So pretty middle of the pack, but he's taken the Brewers to, a lot of successful postseasons. And by successful, I mean, a couple of, games here and there, a couple of NLDSs, a couple NLWC wildcard games. And of course, that championship series against the Dodgers in, I believe, 2018 was a big one there when they had to go up against the Manny Machado Dodgers. So yeah, that was 2018 because they lost to the Red Sox. But yeah, Counsell is going to be a good manager here for the Cubs, and I think it's going to be a big payoff. You're going to see it right away almost, I feel like. So keep an eye out for Craig Counsell. So, where do we start with the Chicago Cubs? Well, I hope you guys are feeling a little bit better from last year's unfortunate exit. We entered, I believe, the last week or 2 weeks of the season with the Cubs fighting and having the best chance for that 6th seed. And that led all the way to a Braves series where I believe they were swept. But the one thing I do remember is a Seiya Suzuki error costed them what was most likely a playoff berth by dropping the ball. The Braves were able to come back in the game and get the win, and they missed the playoffs by 1 game essentially. So definitely a tough year for the Cubs, definitely a tough way to end it. But they made small improvements, and they have very similar team back. And like I said, the Brewers are taking a huge step back this year. Cardinals maybe a step forward, but who's to say the Cubs cannot win the division? They 100% can. And so Cody Bellinger. I think getting him back was a big deal. We talked about, his success with the Dodgers in early years. In 2017, Rookie of the Year. 2019, MVP. Then from COVID to really 2022, lost his form, wasn't really himself. And then last year, he got that back. 130 games, 153 hits. 26 home runs, 97 RBIs, a 307 batting average, the highest in his career, an 881 OPS. He was great. Finished 10th in MVP voting and won a Silver Slugger. So if Cody Bellinger can be this Cody Bellinger and be, the way he was kind of in his MVP days and his Rookie of the Year days, I mean, the Cubs are lucky to have him back, and I think he's going to be a great job, if he plays center field, if he plays first base, wherever the Cubs need to use him. I think it was very important for the Cubs' success to bring back Bellinger, and I think doing that was a great start for them. But it isn't going to be just about the offense for these Cubs. It's going to be about the pitching. Now, the bullpen isn't anything to go crazy about, but their rotation's got some nice names, and a big part of that is Justin Steele, who's coming off his best year by far. Of course, it's only been a short 3-year career for him. Debuted in 2021. Last year, 16-5, was an all-star for the first time, made 30 starts, a 3.06 ERA, the lowest in his career, 173 innings pitched, 176 strikeouts, just career numbers in general. Steele's best year, and I think it's key for him to kind of replicate that in any way he can. Being the ace of that staff now, he's going to need to put up very similar numbers to last year if the Cubs want a chance, fighting for that division possibly. And, another pitcher to talk about here quickly, Shada Imanga. I mean, it's a big name to bring over from the NBP, and he is a good starter. Of course, we'll have to see how he adjusts to Major League Baseball. It's always the question when someone from the NBP or the KBO come over, how they first adjust and then how they, can adapt from season to season. Last year, in his MVP, 7-5 record, a 2.66 ERA, 159 innings pitched, and 188 strikeouts. He is, from the little bit, and I say little bit as in like maybe one at bat that I've seen in a video of, he looks okay. Lefty pitcher, which is always, a fun. You love to have a southpaw. But it'll be interesting to see how he adjusts and if he can, produce anything. Not to say Jameson Taillon isn't a great number 2, but I think at some point he will be the number 2 of that Cubs team if he plays like he does in the NPP. But yeah, it's going to be really comes down to the pitching for the Cubs for their success this year, because when you look at that lineup, it's really great. I mean, Christopher Morel, talk about a star hitter right now. This guy, last year had a great, stint of baseball. And I think he's going to have a really nice breakout year for him this year because, this guy's batting 6th, 7th according to Fangraphs. And, he sometimes I watch his at bats and he's like playing like he's like the best hitter on the team. Last year, 107 games, 26 home runs, a 247 batting average, and a 821 OPS. Those are great numbers. Just have that for a full season, stay healthy, play 150 games or so. And, we're talking about a guy who can hit 30 home runs with like a near 900 OPS, really. And, having him at third base full season, that's going to be huge for the Cubs. Dansby Swanson, they paid this guy a bank last year. And his first year at the Cubs, he was an all-star. Finished with 147 games under his belt, 22 home runs, a 244 batting average, a 744 OPS, 19th in MVP, won a Gold Glove. It's a Dansby Swanson type year. The highest OPS in his career was in 2020, which was 809. So, Dansby's not a all-star type hitter, but, he has fielding, and when he is producing at the plate, he is a great shortstop to have and a great player in general. And, being the number 2 there is going to be nice there. And, of course, Ian Happ, who I think is probably the most well-known Cub, or definitely a fan favorite Cub. He's been there since 2017, and he's been really great. Finished 8th in Rookie of the Year in 2017. He has 2 Gold Gloves, an All-Star appearance in 2022, and then he finished 18th in MVP voting in 2020. Last year, 158 games, 144 hits, a 248 batting average, a 791 OPS. Driven 84 RBIs there. So, when you look at the Cubs offense as a whole, there's a lot to be happy about and a lot to I guess crave is the word I'm looking for. That 1 through 6 I feel like is really strong. It's kind of what are you going to get out of Mike Tauchman on a day-to-day, what are you going to get out of Yan Gomes and Michael Busch. He's had very little opportunity in the big leagues, but if he can kind of be the prospect people think he is going to be, he's 84th on MLB's list. And of course, there's guys here that we haven't even talked about, or guys in the farm system. Like right now, Mike Tauchman is your center fielder. Pete Crow Armstrong will be coming, 22 overall prospect in MLB, the first for the Cubs. And they got 5 guys right now who are part of MLB's top 100. Sorry if I butcher any of these names. And by any, I mean just this first one here. James Trinatos, I believe is the name there. Ben Brown, Jordan Wicks, and Kevin Alcantara. So, all five of those guys could be coming up at some point this year, perhaps. Maybe not James. Maybe he needs a little bit more time. I believe he was a first round pick last year or 2 years ago. Let me see if I can do the quick maths here. And by quick maths, I mean find his name in the farm system here. But yeah, I mean, when you think of the Cubs and you think about the division that they're in and the chances that they may or may not be getting, I mean, we're talking about a Cubs team that can easily play for first division. I mean, when you look at it as a whole, any one of the NL Central teams can win the division. That's not like a hard sentence to say. The Brewers, yes, they lost, some key pitchers here, but I mean, they're still the Brewers. They're still a, very solid team, especially on paper and everything. So I think it's going to be kind of a bloodbath, maybe, maybe not. James is a second baseman. So yeah, and he was drafted second round in 2021. So we'll have to see where his plan is there. But yeah, the Brewers won the division, and the Cardinals are right there in the mix. Who knows what the pitchers they brought over. As a whole, and like I said already, the Cubs' kind of success for the year will come from how good their pitchers are. If their pitchers are going, if the 1, 2, 3 there, if Tyon's having great starts and Steele is kind of replicating last year's success, and Imanga comes over and he figures things out and he's getting hitters fooled left, right, and center, then we're talking about a Cubs team that, every 5 games wins 3 or 4 games. And, that across 162, that could be a division winner. But yeah, as a whole, I think the Cubs are going to have definitely a better year than they did last year. Will they get a playoff spot? Will they get a division? Only time will tell. But I think they have a better chance than some of the teams in that division. Right now, I think I'm standing pretty strong on the Reds. But I would put the Cubs probably second right now, if I had to say, for that division. Taking a look at the over-under, FanDuel has it at 84.5. That is a good line because last year they won 83 games, and I just said that I think they're going to be better, which means 85 wins, which is the over, essentially. Yeah, we'll take the over on the Cubs. We've done a couple unders here. I like the team. Nick Madrigal, he can be a top-tier hitter a little bit, or at least hit for contact. Obviously, he's once top prospect with the White Sox, kind of fallen off a little bit. Patrick Wisdom's got plenty of power. And, yeah, I like the rotation, I think, here. I think Steele's going to have that replication year. I think Imanga's going to shove. I think Kyle Hendricks is going to get through a nice year here and not, give up a 4-point-something ERA. I don't know. You guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments here. I think getting Bellinger back is the big piece here for the Cubs, and I think that's where a lot of the success will come from, is from the offense and outscoring their opponents. So, yeah, the Chicago Cubs 2024, will that be the case? We'll have to watch the baseball year and see. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening to this TOP. We got one more on the way for today, coming out at 11 o'clock, so stay tuned for that one. And I will see you guys next time.